Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, John, the house guy. Hope you're ready for a great show this week. Kim, the homegirl, my lovely co-host, is not able to be with us this week, but it's okay because you're still going to get to see her. Last week, we surpassed a huge milestone in the show. We recorded and sent out our 20th episode of the podcast. And I know that some of you haven't been here for all of those episodes. So what we decided to do for this week to celebrate our milestone is to go back through those 20 episodes and get the best of the best golden nuggets out of each show and share those with you. So you can decide, hey, is this the content that I want to listen to, or is this something that I can use or benefit from or learn from? And if it is, we hope you'll subscribe, leave us a rating and review, subscribe to our YouTube channel. But regardless of any of that, hopefully all the information that we've put out so far will help you. That's our main goal each and every week, is to bring you relevant information to home building and real estate buying and selling so that you can make the best, most informed decision on how to move forward in your real estate goals. So enjoy this week's show. It's a highlight reel of the past 20 episodes, and thanks so much for watching. See ya. And say we're talking to somebody like yourself 4 or 5 years ago who's looking to get started in real estate investing. What would be your advice to them to get going?
Yeah, I mean, for me, once again, your environment may change, so your mileage may vary, as some people would say. But in the market that we were in, for us, I just put myself on, I was like, hey, we're going to, I went through college, right? I've got a master's degree, did my MBA, some of the other stuff. So I looked at some of them and I'm like, not that those didn't get me anything. I thought they were very valuable, but also too, there is something to doing, right? And so I would say if you're sitting there and do your due diligence on your research and everything like that, but at some point you just got to jump in. Mm-hmm. So like I was a kid and, scared of heights and, a pretty good swimmer, but there's a place in our area here called Point Mallard. And so if you remember Point Mallard, they've got like 3 of those big diving boards. And I think the top one was always closed. Yeah. But, it's kind of like, you go up, I would go up to the first level. And I remember having to do the walk of shame where I came back down one time. Right. And so I don't know what happened, but, one time I went up there and I was like, all right, I'm just not going to think about it, right? So I went up just to the edge and I held my nose and, cannonballed into it, and it worked. And so I try to remember that a lot of times with some things when you're doing them, Obviously, I'm not saying, hey, go out and do something that you're not educated on, but there is a certain point where you do need to take a calculated risk and to jump in, because then you're going to learn, right? Right. And you may still hem and haw, or you may find out that you don't like it. I don't know, but if you can take a small calculated risk to go to be in the doing phase of it, because I went 10 years, right, just reading books on some of the other things. Now, I did some of the things. All the books I was reading weren't on real estate, but, I probably spent a year and a half listening to Bigger Pockets, before. Right. Because I travel and I'm in sales, so I have a lot of car and windshield time. And, that kind of gave me the courage to do it too.
So let's get into this. This or that, y'all. Come on. Help me out here. So style, which do you prefer? Do you want a farmhouse, craftsman home, or had you rather be in a more contemporary, modern style of home? So you decide, let me know. A lot of the homes that are being built today are more farmhouse, craftsman style, but I see the other two. I see more modern and contemporary, Yeah,
I think that modern contemporary is kind of catching on, right? I think people are kind of burnt out on Joanna Gaines and the whole shiplap generation.
Well, but it doesn't have to necessarily be like, it can be, when I say farmhouse, like, but it's the way that the style is. Like, if you really research, you're like, well, I didn't know that was a farmhouse style, but right. it is. And it really like depends on what kind of choices you put in that home, Craftsman to me, is like an old River Bluff, those homes there. But really it's some of the more modern, or the homes that are being built today.
So kind of what brought me here is I have an uncle that still lives in Sheffield, has lived here for like 35 years. And it was really kind of a fluke thing, growing up in California. I really never even thought about owning a home because prices are crazy. And in my early 20s, I was very fortunate enough to meet a family that helped me purchase a dump truck. And so that's what I thought my life was going to be, and I was good with it, was driving a dump truck, maybe doing a little bit of dirt work. But I just happened to stop by my mom's apartment one day, just a fluke thing. And she said, hey, your uncle's on the phone. Say hi to him. And it was one of these uncles that I didn't really know that well. I mean, just small talk. And he said, you got to come out here. And I was like, where? He was like, Sheffield, Alabama. And I was like, okay. I'm like, I don't know why I'd go there, but all right. Well, anyway, fast forward probably about a year, maybe a year and a half, I was living here. So I had just gotten married, literally came out here on the honeymoon to look around, went to Nashville, came here, and I'll never forget when I was here, the thing that sold me, and again, I wasn't even thinking, wow, I could own rental property, or I could build this or that and have a strip center, or build a warehouse. None of them thoughts were in my mind. It was simply that house was $25,000,
Right.
and I kept thinking my vehicle cost that, and I was like, where I was from, I mean, in Santa Barbara County, the average home was like $900,000 to $1 million. So it was hard for me to comprehend that. But long story short, I moved out here. I think it was about 2004, and went to work for my uncle. Was living with my uncle. That got old real quick. I was swinging a hammer, making $8 an hour, and I knew real quick I was not a carpenter.
This one is from Newsweek. It says the housing market is in a tug of war. That's the headline. Housing market in tug of war as prices continue to drop across the U.S. By mid-2022, mortgage rates suddenly more than doubled. Most housing experts predicted that the booming market would finally cool down. After years of high demand, skyrocketing home prices and low inventory heated up the market so much that many aspiring buyers found homes simply unaffordable. Now the prices are starting to come back down.
Yep.
I don't see that as much here in our area. Now, we're kind of a localized market, right? We don't have...
Well, we're seeing homes on the market longer.
Yeah, days on market is extending.
So with that being said, there's that's given other people, more of an option. I don't know, like it's more available to other people, because in the past it was like, if you like this house, you better jump in the car and see it, as soon as it got listed. And now it's on the market for a longer period of time. So it's available to more people. So, it's getting out to those California buyers, or, so, and also, if you remember, like back in, a year ago, or so, a house got listed, and you better see it, or 2 years ago.
Right. Well, the middle of last year is when we started to see a decline, June.
But the deal on that was, as soon as it got listed, you had to go see it, and then you were probably, if they really wanted that house, they were probably going to offer, the going rate around here was like $10,000 to $15,000
above asking. Yeah. Strip your contingencies away.
If your client really wanted that house, you had to really help them in that area, because we were losing houses left and right. I mean, that's all you were doing for a minute.
Right.
Me too, just showing.
Rich Dad Poor Dad is the number one book that I hear anybody who I look up to, or anybody that's got some financial independence, that has control of their own time, is successful in real estate. This is the book that they tell me, or that you hear them recommend the most on podcasts, videos, all that kind of stuff. People that I know personally, all that. And so Rich Dad Poor Dad, the premise is what the rich people teach their kids about money that the poor and middle class do not. The idea behind Rich Dad Poor Dad is that Robert Kiyosaki, the author of this book, had a rich dad and a poor dad. And really what it is it was his father and his friend's father. He grew up, his dad was an educator, which kind of struck me in that book because that's what I was doing. His dad was an educator, worked his way up to be the head of the education union in Hawaii. And then his friend's dad was a business owner, real estate investor, real estate developer. And he tells his story in this book about how he learned learned from his rich dad the ways of how to make money work for you. So the first premise in this book is the rich don't work for money. The rich let their money work for them.
How much square footage is a perfect amount? And when you're builders, there's a number, okay? Because we're not obviously moving into the house. We're selling it. So we can't go over and we don't want to go under. So there is a magic number, and we want to accommodate our clients and the buying pool, but at the same time, we don't want to lose our tails either.
Yeah, it's a perfect fit, right? Like
Yes.
a perfect fit for that particular lot is what we're looking for. Or
Right.
that particular where you're building. You know, it's like it needs to go along with the community or the subdivision.
Right.
You know.
Well, and HOA.
But highest
has-
and best use, right? Like
Right.
in other words, hey, this is a lot we paid X number of dollars for. We want to maximize that because we've invested our money and our time into that build.
Right.
And so if we leave 200 square feet off,
Right.
that's 200 square feet that we didn't make the money for, you know.
Right.
And we could have just as simply added it, you know. So
And then, like, you know, if there was a place up top that we could have just added some more structure to make it.
yeah, push a wall out or move
Right.
the roof line a little bit, make the bonus room a little larger. That's added
Right.
square footage, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
Efficiency is what you're looking for on that. But going to Facebook, you have you had a little poll going.
yeah, I put out a post earlier in the week just saying, hey, how much square footage do you have?
What's your ideal square footage? And a lot of people responded, y'all. Like there was a lot of people that responded and kind of said, you know, it was 4 days ago that you said that. But anyways, and it varied a lot. And I think it goes back to, you know, all the reasons in choosing square footage, your purpose, lifestyle, efficiency, budget, and all, you know, all those things that play into finding the perfect square footage. But let's see here.
I think one thing to me that stood out in that whole, like if we're just summarizing everybody's thoughts on it, I don't see really anybody saying, I wish I had less.
That's right.
Right? Like,
Right.
I wish
I was
my
about to
house-
say.
So you get that done. That's the first step. Now, if you're in the county, if you're even like this lot that we're building on is in the city, but it has, it doesn't have city sewer access. So it is going to require a septic tank, an on-site sewage system. And so the next step is to complete a septic tank application, right? And that's going to take about, well, this one I did took about 2 weeks. It may take longer if there's a longer line in front of you or the weather doesn't cooperate. So the first part of that is going to be if your lot did not have what they call a perk test done, a percolation test, which basically they come out, they dig some holes to see how the water is going to drain in that soil, in that grade, and then they tell you, okay, here's where your perk is, here's how much water flows through that soil, and that's going to be required. You're going to have that perk test information when you fill out your septic tank application. Septic systems, they say, will fail regardless over a 50-year period. So you have to have a secondary, that's here in our county, in Colbert County in Alabama. It may be different depending on where you're at, but you're going to have a secondary area where that septic tank can be relocated to in the event of failure of the primary location. So you have a set field of field lines, and then you have a secondary place. So between all of that, there really winds up being, a specific place where your house has to go. Lack of home listings is taking a toll on mortgage demand. Mortgage rates fell last week a little bit. They're still pretty high,
They're
relatively
still pretty
speaking,
high.
right? Mm-hmm. And that's what's causing, like you said, there's still people that have to sell. Job changes, people have to relocate, family dynamics.
And they can't just sit on that house for 2 years. I mean, you've got to sell it. And so, like, you've got to, the square foot price may have been way up here, 2 years ago. Well, unless you wanted to get that way up their price, you should have sold them, because now people, the amount of money that they're going to have to pay monthly for their mortgage based on the interest rates, they can't afford it.
Can't afford it, right? And not only that, but the people that are unless they're in like a family situation or a job situation or something that forces them to move, most of the people that got those 2.5–3% mortgages are saying, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to sit right here because if I sell my house, I might make some money, but then I got to go out and buy a house and pay 7% interest. So I can't.
Or they're living comfortably in their, say, 2,500 square foot house, square feet house, and they can't afford that same square footage and have the same, amenities within their home that they have.
Yeah, they're going to have
Granted,
to
they'll
downsize,
have to
right?
downsize.
Which, I mean, some people do that anyway.
Some people are doing. We could not do what we do without a good contractor.
Oh, without a team, right? I mean,
without a team
yes.
of great contractors, without a, that we could rely on, and we've, like I said, we've got a list and a good, in doing this for so long, we've built up our list of contractors.
Oh, yeah, like a Rolodex.
Yeah.
If you know what that is, if you're old enough to know what a Rolodex is. If not, it's a contacts list.
Right. And so I think, that too, like when we started and where we are now, I can't imagine, I remember, because you had to do all the work, like asking and who can do this for you and who can do that, and trying to get those contractors together. Like now we don't think about it as much, but we need to kind of remember where we came from, as far as like we couldn't do what we do without good contractors. And that that kind of sets other builders apart too, because they have contractors and employees and things like that, and you need to make sure that whoever you choose to build your house, or if you're doing a renovation, make sure they're checking all these boxes, and staying up with their contractors and making sure they do the work. Just hiring this person or that person, like they're probably not doing the work. More probably 95% sure they're not doing the work. They're having somebody else do it. And you need to make sure, and that's who you're going to pay.
Yeah, you're following up on all the work, right?
So, now how much were you out on that particular job? Flooring?
So not as much as you would think, because you can go on the higher end, for some of that stuff, and it could definitely cost you a good chunk of change. But again, I was thinking
even the higher end of vinyl, or LVP, luxury plank vinyl. Yeah.
I lucked out because a friend had actually sent me a link to some vinyl flooring at Home Depot that was only 99 cents a square foot.
Gotcha.
So you could look at it and be like, oh, well, that's cheap or whatever. But honestly, it was the shade that I liked. It was the kind of like look I was kind of like going for. And again, I was like, this is an easy solution, easy fix. It looks great. It does not feel like it's, it doesn't feel cheap at all. And it just helped overall make the rooms come together.
So that is a great example of what John and I like. That's kind of like, we've got a process when we do remodel, and we don't want to spend too much, but we want to give the home just a few wow factors. But when it comes to certain things, we have to look at all the variables, and I think that you chose something that you liked. It necessarily wasn't the best thing on the market, but it fit what you were looking for.
Right.
And then you obviously created your desired outcome. So good for you.
Yeah, for
A+.
sure.
plus.
I got an A+ from Kim. That's all I ever need.
Most of the fears you have regarding career change are unfounded and irrational. You have the ability to do it, but you're going to say, oh, I can't afford the insurance, or there's no way that I can do that because I've got to do this. The thing about it is, if you're called to do it, you'll find a way to make it happen, and God's not going to let it not be so, right? So what you need to do is follow it, take action, don't sit around and make excuses, and determine, are all the things that you're saying, because I did that. I was really scared about insurance, like it's going to just basically bankrupt us about the insurance, but it didn't. Here we are, we're fine, everything happened.
No, it's like extremely, way more money than we pay now, but in the grand scheme of things, like it's not, I'll pay that price, versus, in the grand scheme of things, it works out.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you got to determine if you are kind of like Kim was, delaying what you're supposed to do because of an unfounded fear, or because of a just somehow rationalizing it away. If you know in your heart that you need to change careers, then taking that leap is really the most important thing. Just do it, take action, and go. So typically the way that the ladder works is you start with a single family home, then you go into some small multifamily, then you go into maybe larger multifamily or vacation rentals if that's something that interests you, and then on up into commercial, bigger apartments or bigger retail spaces, stuff like that. And then even maybe some syndication where, a lot of people pool a lot of money together and make a corporation or a business, and they go out and buy as much real estate as they can or a big piece of property, and everybody gets a piece of that, So whatever it is, wherever you are on the road to real estate investing, just know that it's a great opportunity for you to make some money. It's very incentivized by the IRS and the government. They want you to do it. And to me, I just really, really, truly believe in real estate investing as a great vehicle to create wealth and change your family tree.
But we're here to help, and every step of the way. I mean, where real estate agents are your voice in buying or selling.
Yeah, because that process can get confusing, and our heart really is to help people through the process that we've been through multiple times with our own purchases, with our own sales, and also with clients that we've helped. So, this process it can be really smooth if you have somebody that can help you through there and know what they're doing. And if you want that to be us, we'd be glad to help you any way we could.
Let me just go ahead and just put my 2 cents in as a real estate agent. Y'all don't waive the home inspection on a contract. 2 years ago when homes were literally flying off the shelf, people were just waiving the home inspection just to be able to get the house that they wanted. And there's so many things that the naked eye or an untrained eye can't detect or see. And so that's where a good home inspector comes in and will just comb over everything. And so when you do that, you get a good report, and here are the 10 things that a home inspector may find. And these are the alarming things. And usually if you have a really good home inspector, when you get the report, these things are in red. They're usually color coded with his findings are color coded usually, and I don't know, like red.
I think
green.
There's a what do you call that? Like a protocol or whatever for the National Association of Home Inspectors that gives you blue, orange, and red.
Okay.
So blue is like maintenance items, orange is like caution items, and red is like danger items. That's the reports that we see
right.
Here in our local market.
And that's where I go when a client shares a home inspection with us. I look for those reds. Not to say that I'm not looking at the greens and all the other things, but I really want to make sure, like, what are the big things that have to be done?
Safety issues.
Yeah.
Things to consider when choosing your home builder. So, first of all, I think the most important thing a person can do when they're getting ready to choose a home builder is talk through with their partner, or if they're building it by themselves, talk through what their expectations are and their needs are for their home. So when you're sitting there and you're going, okay, we're going to build this house. What do you want from the house? What do I want from the house? Let's try to make this process good so that when we go out and talk to a contractor, go out and talk to a builder, and we're interviewing them, we know who fits our needs.
Honestly, though, like, my personal take on that, I honestly think that you guys, like you, your wife, your husband, whoever you're building the house with, y'all need to have a bottom number, period. I mean, that's really where you need to start. Like, you need to start with a number. And in that number, you kind of want to get your financing in order. If you're, this is before you talk to a builder and you're thinking about building, you really need to have a solid number, because that's where we see things go bad. I just this week, oh man, it just broke my heart. And I kind of want to go back and like see who owns that property, because I would like to finish it. But I just saw a house, and there's weeds grown up, 5 feet tall, and it's framed up. It's got, particle board on the house. It does have a roof, and that's it. Like, there's still paper on the house, and you can tell it's been there for months.
Giving you the best 5 things you need to do before you go out of town on vacation. Summer travel season, you guys are probably preparing to go on a trip, get out of town, take a break, do whatever you need to do. And the last thing you want to do is come back to a bunch of problems at home with your house. So these 5 tips will give you some ideas of some things that you should handle before you leave. All right, so let's jump into it. First and foremost, the number one thing you can do before you leave is make sure that you get the water to your home turned off. Just turn it off. Go to the water main out at the street, or if you have a shutoff valve near your home, turn that water off, because you don't want. I've heard of people, I had friends even that have had problems with going out of town and a pipe burst, and next thing you know, they are gone for a week, 2 weeks, whatever, and that water's been running the entire time. The house gets flooded, and that's the biggest mess you've ever seen in your life. So to alleviate that, just turn the water off before you leave.
Just declutter, get out there, start, set your timer in the evenings, whatever you need to do. But it will make you happier. And also when you're selling your home in the end, it's a lot easier to sell a decluttered home. And it's also a lot easier to move from a decluttered home. And one more tip that I forgot to add in there, now that I thought about it, I read somewhere where it said, as you declutter, pretend that you're moving.
Rental properties and investing in real estate really is a vehicle that we choose because it's a tangible asset that we can go and visit and be there and touch it, and we can force appreciation. We can do things to make it better. We can improve it, and that in turn makes our investment worth more money, right? So the first thing,
as far as investing, when we first got into real estate investing, we were looking at it as a passive income. How can we grow our income passively and not necessarily, go and clock in somewhere and get a paycheck for it. And so we've created this passive income via rental property. Okay, that's one of the ways that we invested in real estate. And also we use our rental property as, that's the first topic, is rentals.
Rental property, right?
Rental property is the first thing that you can get into when you're investing. And I had somebody to tell me one time, and I know you knew this was coming up, if you buy one house for each of your children that you have, and use that one particular house, at the end of it,
when they're born. When they're born or when they're small, right?
Yeah, when they're little, just buy a house for, a child, for every child you have. And then when they go to college, sell it, and that's what you can use to pay their college tuition.
So the difference between when we say custom cabinetry and stock cabinetry, basically, if you have a length of wall, right, and you want to put stock cabinets in there, they only come in certain sizes. So let's say you have 10 feet. You might get 3-foot cabinets, and then you have a 1 foot left over, right? So you're going to have some space there at the end, or you got to figure out how to just use the building blocks. It's like Tetris, the pieces that are there, and plug those into the wall, versus a custom cabinet builder can come in there and take that foot that you have left over, spread it 3 inches on each cabinet, and make them fit the wall perfectly, right? So then when we do new home construction, we do a lot of custom cabinetry because we want it to be perfectly aesthetic for the space, So as we're talking about that. And as
far as like expense goes, though, custom cabinets will run you quite a bit more than the stock cabinets.
Oh, absolutely. Custom anything.
And the quality is a little better too, because it's, usually they use wood, and the other is wood per se, but it's fabricated in a warehouse, and it's not custom. So
right.
There you go.
So that's
it's the cheaper of the two, but that's not to say that it's not a bad cabinet. A home grows in value. When you buy a new car, or, a new to you car, that car sits out there and it loses value. Homes keep their value generally. I mean,
most of the time, yes.
Most of the time, yes. And, that goes back to choose the right location and things like that. To me, location is...
Yeah, that's what they say.
So
location,
important.
location.
Right.
First rule of real estate. Right?
If you've got, real quick though, if you're, I can afford a house between $300 to $350. That's my top. And if there's a really good house that you like at $350 in a really good location, spend that extra $50, because 3 years from now, that $50 may grow to $150. Where the lower location home may only have increased to, $50 period over those 3 years. So location is very important, but we look forward to hearing from you. If you're looking for if you are a first-time home buyer, we'd love to walk you through this process and show you a home and get you into your own home with your own keys and moving that couch out.
Moving that couch. That's right. So don't forget to subscribe, leave us a rating or review, and we'll see you on the next show. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the House Guy and Home Girl podcast, your #1 source for all things home. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and check out our YouTube page for video content from the show.